Have you ever felt like your own mind is betraying you? Like no matter how hard you try, your thoughts spiral out of control, pulling you into fear, doubt, and hesitation. That voice in your head that tells you you're not enough, that whispers that you'll fail, that convinces you to stay small, it is not a stranger, it is your mind. And right now, it may feel like the most powerful force in your life, but here's the truth, the mind is not an enemy. It is a battlefield, a terrain that can either trap you or set you free. And the moment you understand this, the moment you realize the rules of the battlefield, everything changes, because every thought has power. Every belief shapes reality. Every emotion influences your choices. The mind is not passive. It acts, reacts, and directs your life silently in ways you barely notice. But that is exactly why you can take control, because nothing in your life begins outside the mind. Everything begins here. Imagine waking up each day with clarity instead of confusion, courage instead of fear, and certainty instead of doubt. Imagine having the ability to pause, to choose, to decide which thoughts you allow to shape your reality. That is the promise of mastering your mind. The freedom to shape your life with intention, to rise above chaos, to silence the inner critic that keeps you small. It will not be easy. Control is not given. It is claimed through awareness, practice, and relentless focus. But the reward is undeniable, a mind that serves you, not sabotages you. A mind that fuels growth, courage, and possibility. A mind that becomes a source of unstoppable power. And the deeper truth is this: every moment you spend letting your mind run unchecked is a moment wasted. Every fear that goes unchallenged, every doubt that is left unexamined, is a chain silently locking you in place. But chains are meant to be broken. And right now, as you listen to this, you have the chance to break them, to see the battlefield for what it is, to take the first step toward mastery. Because once you claim control of your mind, everything changes. The way you think, the way you act, the way you live, it all shifts. You begin to see obstacles as opportunities, challenges as growth, and fears as invitations to rise. That is why staying here, listening now, matters. This is more than motivation. This is a blueprint for liberation. This is the key to a life where you are the author, the commander, the unstoppable force moving forward with clarity, strength, and unshakable purpose. Right now, notice the thoughts that arise. Are they yours or are they running you? And as you listen, know this: the journey ahead is not about perfection. It is about power, about claiming the mind you were born with and refusing to hand it over to doubt, fear, or hesitation. The freedom, the clarity, the courage, it all begins here in this moment, the moment you decide to see your mind not as a master, but as a tool, a force, a power that can be commanded. And once you take that first step, nothing will ever feel the same. Most people believe life happens to them. They wake up, go through the motions, and surrender to circumstances they cannot control. They blame the world, the economy, luck, or other people for the limitations they feel. But the truth is far more profound. The real force behind every failure, every fear, every feeling of being stuck is the mind itself. Your mind shapes your reality more than any external circumstance ever could. Every hesitation, every self-doubt, every mental excuse is a choice you make unconsciously, and that is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it forces you to face the responsibility you often avoid. Liberating because once you accept it, you reclaim power. Everything that feels impossible becomes possible the moment you understand that you are not a victim of circumstance. You are the commander of your own mind. Your thoughts, your focus, your beliefs, they are the architects of your life. What you think about constantly, what you feed with attention grows. Fear becomes stronger when you give it energy. Self-doubt expands when you nurture it silently. And yet, hope, courage, resilience, and creativity grow just as powerfully when you feed them consciously. The mind is not fair or unfair, it is neutral. It executes what you program it to execute, minute by minute, day by day. The realization is humbling. For every excuse, every limitation you have tolerated, you are responsible. But that same responsibility carries immense freedom, because the moment you accept it, you also accept that you can change it. You can rewire your thoughts, challenge your fears, and refuse to let self-imposed limits define your life. The most powerful people in history, the most resilient minds, the ones who achieve the impossible, They understood this secret. They understood that control begins internally. They understood that external events are only obstacles to the mind that does not command itself. But the mind that is trained, disciplined, and aware can bend circumstances, overcome resistance, and create opportunities where none seem to exist. Imagine carrying that power within you right now. Imagine waking up tomorrow with the understanding that every thought you choose, every belief you nurture, every mental habit you cultivate will directly shape the life you live. The mind that follows this truth becomes unstoppable. It sees challenges as fuel, setbacks as signals, and fear as a compass pointing toward growth.
This is not a theory.
This is science. Neuroscience proves that thoughts shape brain pathways, that repeated mental patterns create habits, and that your focus literally changes the wiring of your brain. Your mind can be reshaped, strengthened, and mastered, but only if you accept that it is the root of everything. Every emotion, every decision, every success and failure traces back to the mind's influence. And when you see it this way, the ordinary begins to shift. The impossible begins to look possible. The chains that once held you feel lighter because you finally understand that the key has always been in your hands. Your mind is not a passive observer. It is a force. It is your weapon, your tool, your freedom. And every moment you spend surrendering to it unconsciously is a moment wasted. But every conscious decision to shape it, to guide it, to control it, is a step into a life that is truly yours, designed, commanded, and lived from a place of power, unlike anything you have ever experienced. The first step to mastering your mind is awareness. Not the fleeting kind that drifts in and out, but deep, unwavering observation of every thought, every impulse, every emotion as it rises within you. Most people live in a haze, reacting automatically, as if on autopilot, unaware of the subtle currents that pull them toward fear, doubt, or hesitation. Awareness is the flashlight that exposes those hidden forces. It allows you to see clearly where your mind has been steering you and where it can steer you if trained with intention. Every negative thought that goes unnoticed grows stronger, embedding itself into habits, decisions, and perceptions. Every unexamined fear accumulates weight until it shapes the very reality you experience. But when you shine the light of awareness, suddenly you see the chains that have bound you. Suddenly you understand that these thoughts are not commands. They are signals. They are invitations to choose differently, to step into control rather than remain a passive observer. Awareness is not passive. It is active. It is the conscious refusal to allow the mind to run wild. It is noticing the tension before it becomes panic, the doubt before it becomes inaction, the temptation before it becomes distraction. Neuroscience calls this metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking, and it is the foundation of every high-performing, resilient, and powerful mind. Without it, the mind drifts, the ego dominates, and external circumstances dictate your life. With it, the mind becomes a tool of precision, capable of sculpting reality in ways that feel almost miraculous. But awareness alone is not enough. It must be coupled with presence, a deep connection to the now, the here, the pulse of your consciousness. When you are present, the mind stops racing ahead or clinging to the past. The mind is free to observe, analyze, and choose. And when choice enters, control emerges. Every thought becomes an opportunity to steer yourself closer to courage, clarity, and purpose. Every emotion becomes a teacher, not a tyrant. Every moment becomes a chance to rewrite the narrative your mind has been telling you for years. This is the reward of awareness, the profound freedom of knowing that you are not a passenger in your own mind. You are the driver. You are the commander. And with each passing day, the practice of awareness strengthens neural pathways, creating a brain that naturally gravitates toward focus, positivity, and resilience. Imagine the power in that. Imagine walking through life no longer at the mercy of random impulses, fleeting fears, or toxic thoughts. Imagine meeting challenges not with hesitation, but with clarity. Imagine making decisions not out of reaction, but out of conscious choice. This is not an abstract dream. This is attainable. Every time you pause to notice a thought, every time you label an emotion instead of reacting to it, every time you simply observe without judgment, you are rewiring your mind, reclaiming control, and stepping closer to mastery. Awareness is the spark that ignites the fire of control. It is the foundation upon which every great mind, every courageous action, and every extraordinary life is built. It is the recognition that your thoughts, as fleeting and chaotic as they may feel, can become the instruments of your freedom. The moment you embrace this, the battlefield of your mind begins to tilt in your favor, and every step forward feels not like a struggle, but like the natural unfolding of power that has always been inside you, waiting to be claimed. Every mind has its triggers. Every thought has a spark that can ignite a chain reaction of fear, anger, doubt, or hesitation. These triggers are invisible forces that steer your attention, manipulate your emotions, and dictate your actions if left unchecked. They are the subtle patterns that have been programmed into your mind over years of repetition, through experiences, conditioning, and unexamined beliefs. Most people react without noticing them, allowing external events to pull their minds in directions they never consciously chose. But recognizing your triggers is where true power begins. When you see the moments that make your chest tighten, your stomach knot, or your heart race, you gain insight into the way your mind has been running the show. Every trigger is a doorway. It is a signal, not a sentence. It is an opportunity to step in and take control, to respond with awareness instead of reaction. The mind is capable of extraordinary resilience when it is trained to notice before it reacts. Each time you pause at the edge of a trigger, each time you breathe instead of responding automatically, you are rewiring your brain, creating a new pathway, a new habit, a new way of being. The science is clear. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought and decision-making, strengthens with repeated conscious effort, while the amygdala, the emotional center, becomes less reactive. This is the neurological foundation of mental mastery. But awareness alone is not enough. Recognition of triggers must be coupled with intention. You must consciously decide how to respond, not be carried away by habit, fear, or instinct. This is where courage meets control. Every time you face a trigger with conscious choice, you teach your mind that it is not powerless. You teach your mind that thoughts and emotions are signals to be observed, not chains to be obeyed. This practice transforms fear into clarity, stress into focus, and anxiety into opportunity. It builds a mental armor that is invisible but impenetrable, and the reward is profound: freedom. Freedom from the automatic loops that have held you back, freedom from self-sabotage, freedom from the invisible hands that have been directing your life. Imagine moving through your day with the ability to choose your reactions rather than be chosen by them. Imagine a mind that responds instead of reacts, that weighs instead of panics, that commands instead of surrenders. The triggers that once controlled you become the instruments of your strength. You begin to see the patterns that dictated your choices, the emotions that manipulated your behavior, and the fears that kept you small. And instead of being a prisoner of those patterns, you become their master. This is not a vague promise. It is a neurological reality. Your brain changes when you practice conscious response. Your habits shift. Your resilience grows. Every trigger becomes a chance to assert your power, to practice awareness, and to prove to yourself that your mind can serve you rather than rule you. Every choice you make in the presence of a trigger is a victory, a small but permanent transformation that builds unstoppable momentum. The chains that once held you begin to dissolve because you finally understand the secret. Control does not come from avoiding triggers. It comes from facing them with clarity, choice, and courage. And each time you do, your mind grows stronger, sharper, and unshakable, preparing you for the next challenge, the next opportunity, and the next step toward mastery. Every thought you allow to dominate your mind becomes a story you tell yourself. Every repeated belief, every mental pattern, shapes the reality you experience. Most people live under the weight of stories they never chose, stories written by fear, doubt, or the opinions of others. These narratives dictate how you feel, what you attempt, and how far you allow yourself to go, but you are not bound to them. Your mind is not a prison, it is a canvas, the power to rewrite, reshape, and reclaim your mental landscape lies entirely within you. When you consciously examine the stories running in your mind, you gain the ability to question them, challenge them, and transform them. Every negative thought, I can't, I'm not enough, this is too hard, is an old script that no longer serves you. And every time you consciously replace it with a thought of strength, courage, and possibility, you are literally building a new mental pathway. Research shows that the brain is plastic, capable of forming new connections throughout life. Every time you practice reframing, every time you choose a thought that empowers rather than limits, your neural circuits adjust. This is not wishful thinking, it is science. But the process demands awareness, persistence, and courage. It requires that you stop accepting automatic narratives and start actively shaping them. You must confront the inner voice that tells you to shrink, that whispers that you cannot, that convinces you that failure is permanent. And you must speak back with intention, rewriting the story in real time. Imagine the impact this has on every area of your life. Decisions become clearer, actions more decisive, and challenges less intimidating. Your emotional state shifts because your mind is no longer a battlefield of random, chaotic thoughts. It becomes a controlled, purposeful force. Every thought you choose strengthens the mindset of someone who refuses to be held back, someone who refuses to be a victim of circumstance, someone who understands that mastery over the mind is mastery over life itself. This is the profound power of rewriting your narrative. It allows you to take control of the lens through which you see the world. And the lens you choose shapes everything. When you view obstacles as opportunities, setbacks as lessons, and fear as a compass, your mind begins to operate at a higher level. Every decision aligns with purpose. Every action reflects clarity. Every moment becomes an opportunity to strengthen the mind that serves you, rather than one that limits you. But transformation is not passive. It requires consistent engagement, a deliberate choice to challenge old patterns and create new ones. Every time you notice a thought that diminishes you and replace it with one that empowers you, you are training your mind to be your ally. And with enough repetition, those empowering thoughts become instinctive, automatic, and unstoppable. The story of fear fades, the narrative of limitation dissolves, and in its place, a story of courage, clarity, and unstoppable action takes root. This is the mind that controls itself. This is the mind that elevates every decision, every action, and every moment of life. The narrative you choose is the reality you live. And when you take command of it, nothing, not doubt, not fear, not circumstance, can hold you back. Your mind grows stronger not through comfort, but through challenge. Every time you step into discomfort, every time you face what scares you, you teach your mind that it can endure, adapt, and rise. Most people run from discomfort. They avoid confrontation, delay decisions, and numb their emotions, convincing themselves that ease is safety. But ease is illusion. Comfort is a cage disguised as a sanctuary. True strength, true control, comes from embracing what makes you uneasy, what pushes you to the edge, what forces you to confront fear and uncertainty head on. The human brain is designed to grow when it is stretched. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize, adapt, and create new pathways when challenged. The more you face discomfort consciously, the more resilient, focused, and disciplined your mind becomes. And this is not limited to physical or external challenges. Emotional discomfort, mental tension, and the confrontation of long-held fears are equally powerful forces for growth. Each time you breathe through fear, each time you pause in the face of anxiety, each time you make a choice that scares you but aligns with your higher purpose, you are forging mental strength. You are telling your mind, your body, your very being that you will not be controlled by avoidance. You are proving that control is not the absence of struggle, but the ability to navigate struggle with clarity and purpose. The reward of embracing discomfort is profound. Courage becomes a habit, resilience becomes instinct, and the mind learns to operate under pressure rather than crumble beneath it. Imagine the power of a mind that does not flinch at difficulty, that does not seek escape from tension, that does not surrender to fear. Such a mind is unstoppable. Challenges are no longer obstacles, they are opportunities. Resistance becomes fuel, and fear becomes a compass pointing you toward growth, not a prison holding you back. Each act of courage rewires your brain, reinforcing the belief that you are capable, that you can endure, and that you are in control. The more you choose discomfort consciously, the less your mind fears it automatically. You build a new mental reflex, resilience. You teach yourself that whatever arises, pain, doubt, uncertainty, can be met with clarity, focus, and intentional action. This is the path of mental mastery, the deliberate decision to step into what most people flee from, the refusal to be dictated to by fear, the conscious choice to convert tension into strength. Comfort may soothe temporarily, but it never grows power. Discomfort, embraced with awareness and courage, builds a mind that is unshakable, disciplined, and aligned with purpose. Every challenge you face, every fear you confront, every moment of tension you endure is not a punishment. It is an invitation to reclaim control over your thoughts, your emotions, and your life, to rise above instinct, to transcend automatic reactions, and to prove to yourself that the mind can be guided, trained, and mastered. Step into the tension, lean into the fear. Face what makes you uncomfortable. This is where transformation happens. This is where the mind stops being a battlefield and starts being a forge where every challenge strengthens, sharpens, and empowers the mental force within you until nothing, no fear, no doubt, no resistance can break it. Motivation is fleeting. It sparks briefly and fades quickly, leaving most people relying on willpower that wavers with every distraction, every doubt, every setback. Discipline, however, is permanent. Discipline is the muscle that carries you when inspiration dies, the force that drives action even when your emotions resist. The mind that is disciplined does not wait for motivation to appear. It acts, it chooses, it persists. Every great achievement, every act of courage, every life transformed is rooted in discipline, the relentless, consistent application of effort, even when the heart feels heavy and the mind protests. Discipline trains the mind to follow intention rather than impulse. It rewires automatic responses, replacing procrastination with action, hesitation with decisiveness, and chaos with clarity. The research is undeniable. Habits are the architecture of the mind. When you build mental habits rooted in discipline, they shape thought patterns, influence emotions, and guide behavior without conscious effort. Every time you rise and act when the mind resists, every time you choose focus over distraction, you reinforce pathways of control that make future challenges easier to face. Discipline is not about rigidity or punishment. It is about freedom, the freedom to act according to purpose, rather than surrender to fleeting impulses. It is the knowledge that no matter how chaotic life becomes, your mind can remain steady, directed, and powerful. Imagine a mind that does not waver with every emotional storm, that does not crumble under pressure, that does not delay or falter. This mind operates from a foundation of discipline, executing action with precision and purpose. The habits you cultivate today become the automatic responses that define your tomorrow. Discipline turns vision into reality by forcing alignment between intention and execution. It bridges the gap between dreaming and doing, between desire and achievement. Every small act of disciplined thought, every refusal to give in to distraction, every choice to persist despite discomfort accumulates into momentum that is unstoppable. The mind that embraces discipline becomes a fortress. It does not fear difficulty because it has trained itself to endure. It does not panic in uncertainty because it has learned to act. It does not flinch from responsibility because it has internalized the habit of follow-through. Discipline is the bridge between potential and mastery, between knowing what is possible and achieving it. It does not demand that life be easy. It demands that you remain committed, consistent, and relentless. And with each repetition, with each act of self-control, the mind grows stronger, sharper, and more resilient. The moments that once tested you, that once felt unbearable, become the proving ground for a mind that refuses to be broken. The discipline you cultivate today builds the mental structure that will carry you through every trial, every obstacle, every fear that arises. Motivation will fade, distraction will tempt, and fear will always knock at the door. But a disciplined mind answers with clarity, precision, and action. Every choice to act despite discomfort, every decision to persist despite resistance, every refusal to yield to chaos is an affirmation of your power. This is the mind that commands itself, the mind that shapes reality, the mind that refuses to be controlled by fleeting emotions. Discipline is not a limit, it is liberation. It is the tool that transforms thought into action, fear into courage, and potential into unstoppable momentum. The mind obeys what it sees. Every image you hold, every mental picture you focus on shapes your thoughts, decisions, and actions. Visualization is not daydreaming. It is mental rehearsal. It is the conscious act of showing your mind what is possible, and in doing so, preparing it to achieve it. Athletes, innovators, leaders, and visionaries have all understood this principle. The mind moves toward what it perceives clearly, repeatedly, and vividly. When you imagine success with detail, when you feel it, taste it, and hear it in your mind, your brain begins to wire itself as if that reality is already happening. Your subconscious starts aligning your actions to match the images you hold. Doubt diminishes, courage grows, and confidence becomes instinctive. Every time you visualize your goals, your mind rehearses the steps, anticipates the obstacles and practices the responses needed to overcome them. This is how dreams are transformed into reality. Not by chance, not by fleeting willpower, but by a deliberate act of mental programming. Visualization strengthens focus because it trains your attention on the exact outcomes you desire. It forces clarity, precision, and intention, stripping away distraction and noise. The mind that practices visualization consistently becomes a mind that expects success, a mind that scans for opportunity rather than threat, a mind that reacts with confidence rather than hesitation. Imagine seeing every challenge clearly, knowing in advance how you will respond, feeling the victory before it arrives. This is not fantasy. This is preparation. This is control. Every detail you imagine strengthens neural pathways, making actual execution smoother, faster, and more certain. The brain does not distinguish fully between what is vividly imagined and what is physically practiced. This means that by commanding your mind to see success first, you give yourself a strategic advantage over fear, indecision, and distraction. Visualization is also a tool of emotional mastery. When you see yourself overcoming obstacles, when you feel the emotions of triumph, your mind begins to associate action with reward rather than anxiety. Fear loses its grip, hesitation diminishes, and courage becomes habitual. The subconscious mind starts working for you instead of against you. Every day you practice this, your focus sharpens, your confidence builds, and your actions become aligned with the reality you have mentally rehearsed. But it is not enough to imagine vaguely. The images must be detailed, rich, and repeated with consistency. You must see the exact path, the steps you will take, the obstacles you will face, and the victory you will claim. The mind responds to precision. It reacts to clarity. It moves towards certainty. The practice of visualization is a commitment to control your mind before external circumstances test it. It is the conscious decision to program your mind for success, resilience, and mastery. Each mental rehearsal strengthens the mind's capacity to act decisively, to endure discomfort, to navigate uncertainty, and to convert obstacles into opportunities. This is the power of seeing before doing, of imagining before achieving, of commanding the mind to follow a vision so vividly that reality must bend to meet it. Visualization is not optional for those who seek mastery. It is essential. It is the bridge between thought and action, between potential and achievement, between who you are now and who you are capable of becoming. Emotions are powerful, but they are not enemies. They are signals, messages from your mind, guiding you to what matters most. Yet most people allow emotions to dictate actions rather than inform them. Anger becomes reaction, fear becomes paralysis, anxiety becomes avoidance. The mind that is controlled does not suppress emotion, it channels it. Emotional mastery is not about feeling less, It is about feeling fully, understanding deeply, and responding deliberately. When you learn to identify your emotions, to label them without judgment, and to observe them without being consumed, you reclaim control. Science shows that naming emotions reduces the intensity of their grip on the brain. Every moment you pause to recognize what you feel, you interrupt the automatic reaction and you insert choice. This is freedom. This is power. You begin to see that your emotional responses are not facts. They are impulses that can be guided, shaped, and redirected. Anxiety can become alertness. Frustration can become motivation. Fear can become courage. Every emotion is raw energy waiting to be transformed by conscious thought. But transformation requires practice. Each time you allow an emotion to arise without immediate reaction, each time you breathe, assess, and respond with intention, your mind learns to operate from clarity rather than chaos. You train your nervous system to remain steady in the storm, to navigate pressure without collapse. Imagine the strength of a mind that feels deeply but never loses control, that experiences fully but acts with purpose, that senses danger but does not panic. Emotional mastery turns the turbulence of the mind into a river you can navigate, rather than a storm that sweeps you away. The mind that achieves this balance becomes unstoppable because it no longer wastes energy fighting itself. It channels its full power toward focus, action, and growth. Each conscious response strengthens the neural pathways of resilience, self-regulation, and confidence. The subtle shifts accumulate until instinct itself becomes deliberate. You move through life not as a passenger to fleeting emotions, but as a commander guiding them toward productive outcomes. This is the edge that separates those who achieve their potential from those who remain trapped in cycles of reaction. You begin to see opportunity where others see chaos, solutions where others see problems, and clarity where others see confusion. Emotional mastery is the bridge between awareness and action, between thought and execution. Without it, even the most disciplined mind falters under pressure. With it, every challenge becomes manageable, every fear addressable, every setback temporary. The power to transform emotion into action is the power to transform life itself. Every breath you take, every thought you guide, every moment you choose clarity over instinct strengthens this capacity. Your mind is no longer at the mercy of random impulses. It is trained, focused, and unstoppable. You become the architect of your emotional landscape, sculpting it to serve your purpose rather than controlling it. Fear becomes a guide, anger becomes energy, and doubt becomes a signal to act with even greater clarity. Emotional mastery is not a skill you achieve once. It is a practice you engage in moment by moment. It is the conscious decision to transform energy into power, chaos into clarity, and instinct into action. When your mind commands emotion rather than being commanded by it, you step fully into mastery, and nothing, no challenge, no fear, no obstacle, can divert the force of your will. Focus is the currency of the mind. Every distraction you succumb to, every moment your attention drifts, is energy lost, potential wasted, and progress delayed. The world constantly pulls at your awareness, alerts, opinions, interruptions, noise, but the mind that is controlled learns to filter, to prioritize, and to direct its attention with precision. Focus is not just concentration, it is deliberate choice. It is the conscious act of deciding where your energy goes, what thoughts you nourish, and what actions you commit to. Neuroscience shows that attention is finite. Every time you fragment it, your brain struggles to consolidate learning, memory, and decision-making. But when you concentrate fully, when you train your mind to remain present on one task, one intention, one goal, you activate powerful neural networks that amplify performance, creativity, and resilience. The mind that masters focus does not chase novelty or surrender to distraction. It locks on to what matters most, and it refuses to let go. Imagine moving through life with the ability to tune out the noise, to eliminate the clutter, and to channel every thought, every emotion, and every action toward a single purpose. Imagine the clarity that comes when your mind is not pulled in 1,000 directions, when every energy-draining impulse is intercepted, and when your attention becomes a laser that shapes reality according to your will. Focus is also the engine of momentum. Action without attention is scattered, inconsistent, and weak. Attention without action is idle, wasted potential. But attention applied with consistent action transforms thought into reality. Each time you practice deep focus, each time you resist distraction, each time you insist that your mind remain aligned with intention, you strengthen your capacity for excellence. The power of focus is compounded by repetition. Neural pathways strengthen with consistent engagement, making concentration easier, sharper, and more automatic over time. The more you train it, the less the mind wanders. The more it aligns with purpose, the less it succumbs to chaos. Focus turns obstacles into clarity because a mind that sees deeply and consistently perceives solutions that others overlook. It isolates what is essential, discards what is irrelevant, and drives toward results with precision and persistence. Without focus, mastery is impossible. Without concentrated attention, fear, doubt, and distraction infiltrate and energy dissipates. But with it, the mind becomes unshakable. Every task, every challenge, every ambition receives the full force of your mental power. The mind that commands focus is unstoppable because it no longer drifts, hesitates, or succumbs to chaos. It sees, it decides, and it acts with unwavering clarity. Every choice to direct attention consciously strengthens the habit, reinforcing your ability to remain present under pressure, to navigate complexity without distraction, and to convert intention into achievement. Focus is the ultimate tool of control. It is the bridge between awareness and mastery, between potential and action, between a distracted, reactive mind and a powerful, deliberate force that shapes reality according to your will. Every day that you sharpen your focus, you are not just observing life, you are commanding it, guiding it, and bending it toward the purpose you have chosen. The mind that controls attention controls everything. Every limitation you believe is real is a chain forged in your mind. Every doubt, every I can't, every internal whisper telling you to stop is a restriction you have accepted without question. Most people live under the weight of invisible chains, shaped by fear, failure, and conditioning, never realizing that the locks are illusions. The mind that is mastered does not accept these chains. It questions them, confronts them, and breaks them with relentless focus and courage. Every belief that once held you back can be dismantled, replaced, and transformed. Your subconscious mind is not fixed. It is a field that can be cultivated, trained, and reshaped. Neuroscience proves that neural pathways are flexible. Habits, thought patterns, and limitations are not permanent. They are learned, and therefore they can be unlearned. Every time you challenge a belief that limits you, every time you refuse to surrender to fear or doubt, you weaken the chain and strengthen the mental muscle of liberation. The mind that breaks its chains sees opportunity where others see walls. It understands that obstacles are not barriers. They are signals to act, to adapt, to rise. Every limitation that once seemed insurmountable becomes a stepping stone when the mind refuses to obey old scripts of defeat. You begin to see that most boundaries are self-imposed, constructed by fear, repetition, and inaction. Once you take conscious control, these barriers begin to dissolve. The mind becomes an instrument of possibility rather than restriction. Imagine moving through life knowing that the only true limitations are the ones you allow. Imagine approaching every challenge with the certainty that your mind can adapt, overcome, and excel. This is not arrogance, it is the reality of mental mastery. Breaking mental chains requires deliberate action. It requires noticing the thoughts and beliefs that constrain you and consciously replacing them with patterns that empower. Each time you do this, your brain rewires itself, forming new pathways of confidence, resilience, and strength. Every mental chain that falls creates more space for creativity, courage, and clarity. Your mind becomes lighter, sharper, and more capable of handling whatever life throws at you. Fear no longer dictates your choices. Doubt no longer paralyzes your action. Resistance no longer blinds you to opportunity. Each act of mental liberation compounds, building unstoppable momentum toward a life of power and purpose. The greatest minds, the most resilient people, the ones who achieve what others deem impossible, they mastered this principle. They refused to accept invisible chains as truth. They faced fear, questioned belief, and chose freedom every time the mind tried to dictate limits. This is the path to control. This is the moment when the battlefield of your mind transforms into a forge of empowerment. Every limiting belief you challenge, every doubt you confront, every fear you step into becomes proof that control is possible. Your mind is not a cage, it is a key. Every chain you break unlocks new potential, new clarity, and new strength. The freedom you feel is not external, it is internal. And once you claim it, nothing, no obstacle, no criticism, no circumstance can impose limits on the life you are capable of creating. Action is the proving ground of the mind. Thought alone, no matter how disciplined or clear, cannot transform your life. It is in movement, in doing, in consistent execution that the mind demonstrates its power. Every idea, every insight, every shift in awareness remains potential until it is translated into deliberate action. Most people stop short here. They analyze endlessly, plan exhaustively, and wait for the perfect conditions that never arrive. The mind that is mastered does not wait, it acts. It begins with small steps, repeated relentlessly, until momentum becomes unstoppable. Action creates feedback. It tests your beliefs, your discipline, your focus, and your courage. It reveals where the mind is strong and where it still requires training. Every effort, no matter how modest, feeds the neural pathways of competence and confidence, reinforcing the truth that your mind is capable of directing reality rather than being pulled by it. Consistent action also builds resilience. Challenges arise, obstacles appear, and doubt creeps in. But a mind accustomed to acting refuses to stall. It adapts, learns, and perseveres. Each attempt, whether it results in success or failure, strengthens the foundation of control, teaching the mind that it can endure, improvise, and excel under pressure. Imagine a life where every choice you make, every step you take, is aligned with the intentions of a mind that refuses to be passive, where hesitation is replaced by decisive action, where fear is met with courage, and where obstacles are transformed into opportunities through deliberate effort. Action transforms knowledge into power because it creates proof. It provides the tangible evidence that the mind, when guided consciously, is capable of extraordinary outcomes. Repetition is key. Small, purposeful actions compounded over time build habits that operate automatically, directing the mind and body toward consistent achievement. The more you act in alignment with your goals, the more your brain encodes patterns of competence, confidence, and clarity. The mind becomes an instrument of results rather than doubt. Action also bridges the gap between intention and identity. Every time you act, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who follows through, someone who does not shy away from challenge, someone who turns thought into reality. Your identity aligns with your intentions, and your intentions shape your life. Without action, even the most powerful mind remains inert, potential untapped, energy wasted. But through deliberate, consistent effort, the mind proves itself capable, resilient, and unshakable. Each decision to move forward, each refusal to be paralyzed by fear, each moment of courage compounds into unstoppable momentum. Action is the measure of control, the indicator of mastery, and the vehicle through which all mental training manifests in the external world. Every step you take confirms to your mind that it is the commander, not the passenger of your life. It validates every practice of awareness, focus, emotional mastery, and courage you have cultivated. And with each forward motion, the mind grows stronger, sharper, and more capable of directing reality according to your will. The life you imagine becomes the life you live, not through thought alone, but through deliberate, persistent, unstoppable action. Your mind is constantly seeking patterns, constantly absorbing what you expose it to. The beliefs you repeat, the thoughts you dwell on, the fears you feed, these become the invisible scripts that govern your life. Every limitation you perceive, every hesitation you tolerate, is the product of subconscious programming, reinforced over years of repetition. But the mind that is mastered is not a victim of old patterns. It identifies them, challenges them, and rewires them intentionally. Every belief that holds you back can be examined, dismantled, and replaced with one that empowers. The process begins with recognition. Notice the recurring thoughts that define your behavior. Notice the mental habits that dictate your decisions. These are not facts, they are learned responses, and because they are learned, they can be unlearned. Every time you confront a limiting belief, every time you refuse to obey the voice that tells you you can't, you weaken the pattern and strengthen the mind's capacity for freedom. Science confirms that neural pathways are not fixed. The brain adapts, grows, and reorganizes based on what you practice and reinforce. When you consistently replace disempowering thoughts with empowering ones, when you rehearse confidence, courage, and clarity, your mind begins to operate differently. Old chains dissolve and new pathways of possibility take shape. This is the power of breaking mental chains. It transforms the way you perceive yourself, the world, and your potential. You begin to see opportunities where others see barriers, solutions where others see problems, and possibility where others see limitation. Every thought you consciously choose strengthens your command over your mind, reinforcing the truth that nothing external can control you unless you allow it to. Imagine moving through life unshaken by doubt, unafraid of challenge, undistracted by fear. Every obstacle becomes a signal, every fear a guide, every limitation a step toward growth. Mental freedom is cultivated through deliberate practice. Each time you challenge an old belief, each time you refuse to follow automatic patterns, each time you choose a thought that empowers rather than confines, you strengthen the architecture of mastery within your mind. The mind that has broken its chains becomes a mind that commands reality. It acts decisively, responds with clarity, and navigates uncertainty with confidence. Fear no longer dictates your choices, and doubt no longer paralyzes your action. Every step taken in alignment with conscious thought reinforces the neural pathways of control, resilience, and focus. This is not an abstract principle. It is measurable, repeatable, and attainable. The liberation of the mind begins internally. The power to shape your life, to dictate your responses, and to redefine your limitations exists within you. Every chain that falls creates more space for creativity, courage, and decisive action. Every limitation that dissolves expands your capacity for achievement and mastery. The mind that recognizes its own power does not wait for permission from circumstances. It commands itself, shapes its beliefs, and directs every thought and action toward purpose. The freedom, clarity, and strength that emerge are not external gifts. They are the inevitable result of conscious, deliberate mental control. This is the path of mastery, to identify, challenge, and replace every limitation with choice, power, and unwavering clarity until your mind becomes the instrument through which your highest potential is realized. Discipline is the bridge between intention and mastery. Without it, knowledge remains unformed, potential remains dormant, and courage remains unrealized. The mind that is controlled is not merely reactive. It is structured, guided by principle, and trained to align with purpose. Every moment of discipline, no matter how small, compounds into unstoppable momentum. It begins with simple consistency, choosing focus over distraction, action over hesitation, growth over comfort. Each disciplined choice strengthens the neural pathways of self-command, reshaping the mind to operate from control rather than impulse. Discipline is not restriction, it is liberation. It is the framework through which the mind becomes free, because freedom without structure is chaos, and chaos only reinforces doubt and fear. Every habitual action, repeated with conscious intent, trains the brain to anticipate success, resilience, and clarity. The mind becomes sharper, faster, more adaptive, and more capable of handling uncertainty. Think about the life you desire. Clarity, strength, achievement, peace, and purpose. None of these are handed to you. They are built through repeated disciplined mental action. Every decision to stay aligned with your highest purpose, every refusal to give in to distraction or fear constructs a mental architecture that supports unshakable control. Discipline fuels focus. When the mind is structured through intentional habit, it refuses to be swayed by fleeting emotion, external noise, or internal doubt. Attention is no longer fragmented, it is concentrated, deliberate, and potent, This is where real power emerges. When thought, action, and focus converge toward a defined goal, the mind becomes unstoppable. The resistance you feel, the temptation to surrender, the voices of doubt, they are tests of discipline. Every time you maintain alignment, every time you choose control over comfort, you reinforce the truth that your mind is stronger than any impulse or obstacle. Discipline is also emotional mastery. A disciplined mind does not collapse under frustration, fear, or uncertainty. It observes these states without surrendering, guiding itself with calm, purposeful decisions. Each act of restraint strengthens confidence. Each refusal to react impulsively amplifies clarity, and each moment of deliberate choice deepens the connection between intention and action. This is not theoretical. It is measurable in the structure of thought, the speed of decision, and the strength of execution. The disciplined mind transforms challenges into opportunities, obstacles into stepping stones, and limitations into invitations to grow. Every repetition, every act of focus, every conscious decision compounds into a reality where control is natural, effortless, and undeniable. Imagine moving through life with this internal architecture, where thoughts serve your purpose, emotions amplify rather than limit you, and action flows from clarity rather than chaos. That is the power of disciplined control, the power to shape not only your mind but your destiny. The mind that cultivates discipline is the mind that commands its world. Every choice, every habit, every focused act becomes proof that mastery is possible. This is the essence of control: consistent, deliberate, disciplined action, repeated until the mind itself is a fortress of focus, resilience, and unstoppable strength, shaping a life that reflects not circumstance but conscious, deliberate command.